CPC kids, and welcome to week 4 of our series Wise. This week, our big idea is that we can ask God our questions. And our Bible verse is Nehemiah asks to rebuild the wall, from Nehemiah 2, 1 through 20. Okay, we're going to do a really fun activity now. I'm going to ask you a few questions, and I want you to stand up if the answer is yes, and sit down if the answer is no. So you're going to be going up and down maybe a few times if your answers are yes or no. Have you ever been to the zoo? So you can stand up if you've been to the zoo. If you haven't been to the zoo, you can stay sitting down. Have you ever been on a bus? Have you ever been on a boat? Have you ever gone to a museum? Have you ever taken a picture with Santa Claus? Have you ever been to the hospital? Have you ever gone swimming? And now it's time for our video lesson.
Hey everyone, I'm glad you're here. Hey, what's your favorite thing to draw? I like to draw pizza and puppies and my family. But I have a really big family, so they're kind of hard to draw. Have you ever made something that was really hard to make? Well, in today's story, we'll meet a guy named Nehemiah who wanted to make something that was really hard to make. It wasn't a drawing, but let me tell you what it was. Nehemiah was from a city called Jerusalem, but he lived far away. When our story begins, Nehemiah was sad. He'd just heard from his brother that his hometown was in trouble. The people in Jerusalem didn't follow God like they used to, and the walls surrounding their city were falling down. This was hard news for Nehemiah to hear. He trusted God, but he didn't understand why the city he loved was crumbling like that. So Nehemiah went to the king he worked for and asked for permission to go home and lead his people in rebuilding Jerusalem. The king said, "Go!" and even gave Nehemiah help in making the long journey ahead of him. Rebuilding the walls was a big job. In fact, even though Nehemiah knew God wanted him to lead his people, he wasn't sure how to get it done. But Nehemiah trusted God. He said, "Okay, God, if this is going to happen, you'll have to tell me what to do next." And guess what? God heard Nehemiah's prayers and showed him what to do. Even when people doubted if Nehemiah knew what he was doing, he knew God was right there, helping him every time he had a question. Just like Nehemiah went to God when he wasn't sure what to do, we can ask God our questions too.
All right, welcome back. Now that you've seen our video lesson and you've learned a little bit more about our story, let's discuss it. So our story today was about a man named Nehemiah. Nehemiah was born long after King Solomon, and by the time he was around, the city where Solomon had built the temple, Jerusalem, was in poor shape. The walls had completely fallen apart. That made Nehemiah sad. Nehemiah lived far away from the city. He was a cupbearer to a king. A cupbearer is a person who tastes the king's food and drinks to make sure they are safe for the king. One day, the king noticed that Nehemiah was sad, and he asked Nehemiah why he was feeling so sad and what he could do to help. Nehemiah asked the king if he could go to the city of Jerusalem and rebuild the walls. He also asked the king if the king would write letters to people who could help Nehemiah. The king agreed, and he sent people with Nehemiah so that he would have a safe journey to Jerusalem. Nehemiah was able to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. Nehemiah was wise. He let the king ask what the problem was first, instead of asking to go to Jerusalem right away. When the king said yes, Nehemiah asked for very important things so that he could get the job done. We should always ask questions when we don't know something. God always finds a way to give us the answers we need, so we can ask God our questions. So now it's your turn to build your own city, just like Jerusalem, with blocks like Legos or Duplos, magnet tiles, or cardboard boxes. or any combination of all of those. Then you can build a wall around your city, reminding you of today's story. And now it's time for our memory verse.
James 1, verse 5. If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, and it will be given to you.
Will you pray with me? Dear God, we thank you for never making us feel silly for asking you questions. We know you love listening to us and answering our questions. Help us to be wise by asking questions, just like Nehemiah. Thank you. Amen. Thanks for joining us today. We hope to see you soon.